Hey, Chris Norwood. Always good to catch up. Thanks for joining me from the sun. Is it officially the sunniest place on Earth, or at least in North America, that you're hailing from?
Hey Chris, it's good to see you too. Yeah, it's usually pretty sunny here, 300 plus days a year.
I love it. I'm always, if anyone who knows me knows, I'm always complaining about the weather, and that is, I love talking to people about all these wonderful, warm, sunny places, uh, because it is like -20 and snowy right now. So, so I love it.
I
Well,
used to live in that type of climate.
yeah, you're
Oh,
saying you're from DC, or you lived in DC for a bit.
yeah, yeah, definitely an East Coaster for sure.
Yeah, Arizona's, at least for weather, is far better to be in Arizona, at least right now, than DC, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, let's dive in and talk, kind of about what you've been up to, some of the work we've done together. Before we dive in, what do you do? Tell us about Dusk Music Festival and all the awesome stuff you guys are up to.
Sure. We're a 5-year-old music festival in Tucson, Arizona. We obviously did not have a 2020 edition for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So we've kind of turned our attention to 2021. My role specifically is the director of marketing and partnerships. So I kind of take care of all of the high level messaging strategy, creative strategy for the festival, and work with all of the other vendors and partners to help us execute. But my primary role the past year or two has been developing the sponsorship partnership program for the festival, to help us, increase revenues from that perspective, so we
Mm,
can, make the festival better from an artist standpoint, from amenity standpoint, just make the entire festival better. And sponsorship is a huge part of any event, and ours is no different.
yeah. And I mean, you guys do activations very well. I have to ask, like, where do these ideas come from? How do you come up with all these cool things to do at your festival?
Well, a lot of them come from the sponsors themselves. They typically have some sort of activation that they use at other events, whether it's another local Tucson event or something national for some of the bigger brands. But for the most part, it really just comes through, talking with them about how they want to use the event to improve their marketing or their lead generation. Really, we sit down with the partners and really figure out a plan, and figure out the best way for them to engage with our festival attendees.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, I hear from a lot of people that kind of their biggest challenge, or things that maybe stress them out about sponsorship, is coming up with all the ideas. And I think you just said it really well. And it's something that we encourage and teach, that um, your kind of your get out of jail free card is that actually the sponsor should come up at least with some of the ideas. And the real key, I think, of a kind of a good sponsorship professional is to be able to ask the right questions versus come up with all these ideas, which can be exhausting. So activation is not your wasn't your challenge. Then like give us a sense. What were you struggling with from a sponsorship perspective? Like, what were those challenges that made you say, yeah, I'm finally going to work with this Chris guy? Because we've been talking for years. I
Yeah,
think back
well,
2017 or something.
two for sure.
Yeah. And so I just checked, and there was a comment from you on my LinkedIn page that I think you posted in 2018 or 2019 or something like that. So yeah, what was the thing that made you think, all right, I give in, I gotta work with this guy and see what we could do?
Yeah, well, I mean, a big part of it was just, being a part of your sphere of influence over the past couple of years and seeing all of the good content that you put together. And, it helped me kind of get started because I wasn't really doing sponsorship prior to 2 years ago. I have a marketing background, but was not doing anything related to sponsorship. So, being able to hear from a professional in the industry, kind of see what other organizations were doing, what some of the strategies were, it was a huge benefit for me. And when I really started to see a little bit of success with sponsorship, I knew that if I really focused and put some structure in place and processes and brought some other people in to help, I knew I'd be able to be really successful. And that's kind of what got the initial impetus started.
Yeah, so you knew there was kind of something to the sponsorship opportunities and the sponsorship potential of your property, um, but you didn't come from a sponsorship background. You could have fooled me, man. You took to this process second nature. So congrats on all your success, because you've done. I think you've done quite well with sponsorship for the festival. Like, what would you say has been the key to your success?
I would say just being patient and making the connections. It's really hard to explain to someone and have them understand exactly what you have to offer,
Mm,
in 5 minutes or 5 weeks even. So being able to just continue the conversations and really learn a little bit more about each potential prospect and what they're trying to get out of the engagement. And that just takes time. It takes time. It takes being comfortable, trusting the person, trusting the organization, seeing the success, the case studies, things like that.
yeah, I love that. Patience is easily um, one of the top qualities of those who are successful in this space. Like, if you come into sponsorship thinking, I'm going to do all these one call closes, I'm just going to call up mega brand X and tell them we want money, can we have some, it's going to be great. You will be horrified in your 18th meeting with that same prospect over a
Yep,
year, negotiating and negotiating. So
that's
patience is
exactly right.
absolutely
Yeah,
critical.
I've
So
got a I've got one really good close to closing prospect that I engaged with in 2018, I think it was, and he was actually at a brand. Then he went to an agency, and now he's at a different agency. So we've been talking for 2 years across three organizations, and we're finally starting to get a deal together.
yeah, that is the way. I love it. Patience and persistence.
Yep.
So yeah, so going back to kind of that LinkedIn post, you had said something like, I'm going to put you on the spot now. It was, you had said something like, back in 2018, you said that our methods and the process that we were using, that you've been exposed to, caused you to double your sponsorship revenue, which is amazing. Can you share another win that you had while throughout our work together over the last 3 months, big or small? Like, what's a win that you can share with the group that you're proud of?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest wins in working with you and the rest of the team is really getting a handle on the valuation of what we
Mm,
have to offer, using the calculator, and putting together the basic activations and really understanding what the value proposition is for the various parts of a particular activation, whether it's lead generation or just brand awareness or on-site engagement, things like that. I
yeah.
really just had absolutely no clue how to value any of that, and we found that we were, undervaluing things
Mm,
pretty dramatically in terms of some of those top tier opportunities like the title sponsor and some stage sponsors. So to me, that was a huge win. It makes me a lot more confident to talk about the festival and what we have to offer, and then just really, developing a process for communication. Developing some good scripts and good ways to approach different types of people and wherever they are in the relationship journey that we have with them, when
yeah.
to push, when to not push, things like that.
Yeah, there's a nuance, there's an art for sure. It's certainly, it's part of the sales and marketing world, this sponsorship thing that we do, but it takes a great deal of reading people and knowing when to lay down the big numbers, when to push back,
When
and
to walk away.
when I feel like we're venturing into country music territory
Yeah.
here. Um, and so, yeah, you've got, and then doing the valuation piece, we hear that a lot. It's sort of like, I knew I was undervalued, or I didn't know exactly what to charge. And now being able to articulate it, it
That's
lets me, it lets me push back a little. If someone's like, yeah, we'll do this and we'll give you $2,000. It's like, well, actually, to do that, it costs this much. And you're in a position to negotiate, not based on a hunch, but based on cold hard data.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And having a third party being able to, provide the foundation for all of those numbers is, I know it's going to have a great impact on the conversations that I have, and that ability to push back, as you said.
Yeah, especially as you creep into those presenting and title sponsorship ranges where being wrong by 20%, you know, it's a lot of money. If you
It
if
is. I mean, that covers the production costs of the build outs and things like that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you one of my big wins for you guys is I remember when you, Stephanie, and I went over your prospect list together, and it was like 300 people long or something like that. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but I remember thinking like, this is serious. And you had like a solid group of companies, multiple contacts at each company, at each organization. And I remember thinking like, these guys are going to be successful. Do you remember how many prospects you've sort of uncovered through the audience centric analysis that you did?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was right around 300. We had about 50 prospects across 10 or so industries, and easily had 5 or 6 contacts. Within each of those potential prospect companies. Yeah, I mean that to me was actually fun. Sitting down and thinking about, all right, who within these organizations could potentially have use for the festival. Whether
Yeah.
it's the experiential person, or the salesperson, the lead gen person, the marketing person, human resources, employee attraction, retention. I mean, there are just so many different angles to go, and putting it all on paper and then just kind of following that process down through each company was really cool. And you could, getting into people's LinkedIn bios to see what their interests are, not even specifically what their job responsibilities
Yeah.
are. You could get a good sense of who might be a good person to make contact with.
Yeah, it can be really stressful for people when they're prospecting and they're like, "Oh, I was sure this company was a lock, and they said no, or they're ghosting me, they're not responding." And I
Yeah.
always say that's because your prospect list is not big enough. If
Yeah.
one prospect it causes you stress that they didn't come on board, you need 250 more prospects, and then you can play chess almost and try to strategize who the best contact is. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you've opened up some interesting conversations with those people. So it's not just a list of 300 people who are ignoring you. It's actually leading to some conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had pretty good success over the past, I don't know, month or so, getting connections with people, which is that first step. Getting them interested, getting them to acknowledge that we exist is a huge first step.
Love it. Yeah, no kidding. So for those who are either not so familiar with what we do, or they're not really sure exactly what the sponsorship accelerator is, my favorite question, like, how would you describe the experience of the sponsorship accelerator? Like, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as genuinely helpful. Really taking a holistic approach to the process. Starting with your own entity and your own property and your own activations and things like that. Then moving on to the prospects and the funnel, and then the communications, and then putting together the details of a contract. All of those types of things. Really, just having a good foundation in all aspects of the sponsorship process has been a huge benefit for myself and for Stephanie as well, who is a little bit younger, and not as experienced on the marketing side. Being able to have
Mm.
the resources, the examples, the scripts, the blank forms, everything that you could possibly need to, you know, create the conversation, have the conversation, and win the conversation. Everything is all there. So that really has just been an amazing experience to be able to have access to the complete life cycle of what
Mm.
we try to do every day.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And the having the community there as well. I've often thought, like, for someone who's newer to sponsorship, or who's kind of starting out their career in marketing, hearing from other people who are like, yes, that seems like a good idea. I tried it. It ended horribly. You may want to try this instead. Like, I,
Yeah.
I often think, I wish I had that when I was starting out, to have someone be like, don't do that. And so, yeah, that end-to-end process and the community to kind of help you see around corners is all part of the experience. And I'm glad that you found value and that Stephanie found value from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being able to hear people ask questions that you hadn't thought of, or one that you weren't sure if it was even a relevant question, to have it asked and discussed, and really vetted through a bunch of people's perspectives, from different industries, different types of organizations, different types of properties. Was a huge benefit as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Well, my last question. I know you're a busy man. And you have lots to do, like a festival to plan.
Yeah.
So is there a message that you'd share with, yeah, fingers crossed that live events will be a thing when you're, when you're ready to run your festival.
Yep.
So is there a message that you can share with those who have like, I've checked out the page, this Chris guy wants to book a call. Should I do it? Is it worth having the conversation? What would you say to that person who's kind of on the fence, not sure, should they even consider this?
Yeah, I would say, if you're really serious about upping your sponsorship game, even if you think you're headed in the right direction, there's just such a tremendous amount of support and resources that you can get out of the accelerator. Just hard facts, resources, tools, documents you can download. But just having the ability to have conversations and pick the brain of people who have had success, who are starting to have success, who are just getting started. The entire process is just really an amazing 90 days of learning, and really building processes and getting the tools needed to be much more confident and comfortable with the process.
Amazing. Well, I really can't thank you enough for your kind words and also taking the time. For those who want to see a real world-class music festival and all the awesome stuff you're doing with your sponsors, where's the best place to find you and all the cool things that you're up to?
Yeah, well, our website is duskmusicfestival.com. It's kind of in a pretty bare bones state right now, as we're just starting to get artists together and things like that, for November. But we're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you search Dusk Music Festival, you'll find it pretty easily. We're usually pretty active on there, starting in the spring. Talking about artists and sponsors and our fans and all of the great things that can be done at the festival.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah, I would strongly encourage you to check it out. And it is certainly worth the trip in November to go and
Yeah,
hang out at Dust Music Festival.
sunny and 75 degrees.
Every day.
Can't beat it.
Love it. All right. Well, listen, Chris, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time today. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.